Hey guys, for a long time, you all have been asking me for a kitchen tour, and there was always one more thing I wanted to do before I was ready to share it. And now I'm happy to say, after many months of work, I'm finally ready to give you a tour. So this video is part of a two-part series that has been sponsored by KitchenAid that has generously donated all of the appliances you're about to see. I've admired the KitchenAid appliances for years. I've even taught cooking classes in kitchens with them. And now it's so great to have the full suite of KitchenAid appliances installed in my own home. It was the perfect fit. As we go through, I'll point out my favorite features of these appliances. Each one is unique, and some of these features are truly awesome. So we bought this house 10 years ago as a foreclosure. And what really sold me on it, aside from the large yard, was the kitchen. This was even before I had a YouTube channel or even really knew what YouTube was, to be honest. But I always dreamt of having a kitchen with a large window out to a vegetable garden where I could just step outside my back door and pick fresh vegetables. Even though the house was a bit of a mess and the yard was totally overgrown, I knew with a little bit of work that this house and kitchen could totally be transformed to what it is today. It would just take a few years to get it that way. So the kitchen had this really strange lime green color walls mixed with these dark cabinets, and we couldn't afford to replace the cabinets because that is really expensive. So we just painted them. We painted them all white and changed the hardware, and it made a dramatic difference. And then when we added the stainless steel appliances, it just made everything pop and brought the look together, and it looked so clean and fresh. For the oven, I knew I always wanted a double oven because one of the big dreams for us in home ownership was being able to host the holidays. And when we all get together, we're at least 15 to 20 people. So I knew a double oven would be a great thing to have when we're having a lot of people over. I'm in love with the new KitchenAid SmartOven Plus with powered attachments. It's the latest oven from KitchenAid, and it is truly incredible. The oven comes with interchangeable attachments. There's a grill attachment, a glazed ceramic baking stone, and a steamer attachment. They all fit seamlessly with the help of a base pan, which holds the heating element powered by the oven. I love the grill attachment for grilling meats, no matter the weather, the ceramic baking stone for homemade scones, and the steamer is wonderful for steaming fish and vegetables all at the same time. These attachments have really expanded my horizons in the kitchen, and it's also lessened the need for additional tools and gadgets for cooking and baking. Now, one thing to know when purchasing this oven is that the grill attachment, base pan, and heating element are shipped with it. And then you need to register your oven in order to receive the baking stone and the steamer. They'll be shipped separately at no cost to you. And then we decided to keep the original kitchen island. I love kitchen islands because I think they're so social. Especially for someone like me that's always cooking and entertaining at the same time. You can be stirring something on the stove and still be talking to people that are at the table, and you don't have to have your back to anybody. The original countertops to this kitchen were this really dark granite, which I didn't really love. I lived with it for a few years, and in fact, if you see some of my earlier videos, it's still there. But I wanted something lighter. I really wanted marble, but I didn't want the maintenance of marble because marble can stain so easily. So instead, we went with a quartz marble, which is actually a manufactured stone. So you can put hot things on it. If you spill, it's easy to clean up. It's a great way to get the look of marble without all the maintenance. And then we just installed a thick edge around the countertop so it looked like a large slab, but that's really just a veneer along the side, and it's a lot more cost effective to do it that way too. Then for the cooktop, I chose KitchenAid's 5-burner cooktop. There is just something so fabulous about having one more burner at your disposal. Especially the way I cook in this kitchen. There's always one or two things simmering and one thing boiling, and to be able to have 5 burners is just such a great luxury. The center burner is a 17,000 BTU professional dual flame burner. I know that is a mouthful, but what it means is actually something pretty awesome. It means that you can have a very small flame for precise simmering. This is really great if you're just simmering a sauce or something where you just don't want a lot of heat, but you just want constant, precise heat. And then you can turn it up to a dual flame, which means you still have the precise flame, but then you also have a ring around the exterior. And this is really great for boiling. All on the same burner. How great is that? I also really love the sleekness of KitchenAid's Downdraft Ventilation. So it's in view when you need it and then disappears when you don't. The Downdraft Ventilation was really important to me because I didn't want to put in a big hood that would obstruct the view of the garden. That's one of the best features of this kitchen. That way, just from my kitchen, I can look out to my garden, see what's in season, what might be ready to be picked, and what I could cook up for dinner. Then to soften the look of this very white kitchen, I wanted to add some vintage accents just to give it sort of a homey, cottagey charm. So on the countertops, I like to store all of my fresh produce in vintage baskets that I've picked up during our travels in France. Then you'll notice in the corner I have all of my wooden spoons, spatulas, and whisks separated into crocks. These crocks are actually pickling crocks, so you'll notice they have the numbers on them. It'll say 1. That's how you know how many gallons these pickling crocks are. So I actually made the mistake the first time I ordered it and got the 2 size, which is way too big. So if you're looking for something that's similar, always get the 1 gallon because it is the perfect size to hold all kinds of utensils. And my husband is always like, do you really need all of these? And I'm like, yeah, I kind of do, because when we're shooting and we're doing like 4 to 5 recipes a day, we might go through all of those spatulas. You'd be surprised at the end of the day, those crocks are empty. And then I have this sweet little vintage painting that I found in France that I hang above a vintage bread bin. And there's just something really charming and nice, I think, about incorporating art into a kitchen because it makes it feel less institutional and more kind of like a room. And I love this painting because there's something really sweet about it. If you look at it, there's this old French woman who's gathering up mussels all by herself in the rocky shores of probably Brittany. And I always laugh at my husband and I say, this is gonna be me as an old lady. That's what I'm gonna be doing. And he says, where's me? And I said, oh, you're there, don't worry. And you see to the side, there's this other little man figure. It's kind of hard to make out, but he's also gathering the mussels. For the refrigerator, we went with an armoire style design. I love this style of refrigerator because I think there's something so clean and sleek about it. The door's completely open on each side like an armoire, so that's how it gets its name. And the best part is the water dispenser is actually inside the unit, which creates a really clean, uncluttered design on the exterior. I also really love the way that this refrigerator is organized. You can pack so many things in it. So the shelves on the doors are large enough to hold milk and juice cartons. Then there's smaller shelves for all the condiments, a little compartment for the butter. On the 2 crisper drawers, the temperature and moisture levels can be customized for either fruit or veggies. But my favorite feature of this refrigerator has to be the party tray. It is so perfect for me. So at the bottom of the fridge, there is a drawer that pulls out. And during the week, I have it separated. So I keep basically all the cheese on one side and then meats on the other side, separated by that divider. But on the weekend, you can pull that divider out, and then I can use this for my party trays. This is great for when I'm putting together a cheese tray. I can have everything ready to go, pop it in that drawer, and then when guests arrive, all I have to do is pull it out. How great is that? And then the freezer is below, and it's just the perfect size for us. I love the built-in ice machine, which is super convenient, and then it has 2 roomy bins below. Another reason why we chose to keep the existing cabinetry and just paint them is they actually had some pretty good features. So most of the drawers pull out, which is a really great feature if you're designing a kitchen. But my favorite little cabinet has to be the spice caddy. When I saw that, I was totally sold. I was like, that's the cutest thing ever. It pulls out and you can put a ton of spices in it. So when we first moved into the house and I loaded it up with spices, I thought, oh, I'm gonna get really organized and I'm gonna organize them alphabetically. So I'll put the allspice followed by the basil and so on. Not only was that really hard to maintain, but I also found that that wasn't how I cooked. I wasn't using allspice and basil together. So instead, I started to organize them by cuisine. So I put all of the Italian spices together, all the Mexican spices together, Indian spices, and so on. Because when I'm making those types of dishes, I usually just take all the spices and bring them to the counter, because that's usually what I'm using. Then to continue the cottagey feel of this kitchen, we replaced what was a stainless steel sink with a under-counter mount farmhouse sink. I love these sinks because they're really deep and you can put a lot in it. And then for the faucet, we went with a vintage gooseneck faucet in a rubbed oil bronze finish, which I think also adds a nice vintage charm to this area. We did get a faucet that had a removable nozzle, which is a really great feature anytime you want to clean out your sink or if you have something in a colander that you just want to rinse. So my husband was really pretty hands-off with this kitchen design. He knew that it was like my special place and he was like, okay, do what you want to stay with this budget. So I was like, okay, I can do that. But the one thing he was not going for were hardwood floors. I really wanted hardwood floors in the kitchen, even though I know that is like completely impractical. So we did a compromise. We went for ceramic hardwood looking floors, which was really a great idea. When I think of all the times that we spend shooting in this kitchen and the mess that is made at the end of the day, if I had real hardwood, that probably would not have been a good idea. But this floor really looks like hardwood, but it's ceramic and it's great because at the end of the day, all you do is mop it up. And then to soften the look of the hardwood floors, I added a little runner in front of the sink, which I think gives the kitchen a cozy vibe. And then this kitchen doesn't have a lot of under counter space under the sink, so I was a little bit challenged of where to put the trash and the recycling. So instead of having kind of like ugly trash bins that you might be looking at, I went with clothing hampers instead, these 2 baskets. So they're actually made, to put laundry in, but I line them with trash bags, and then I have one for my recycling and one for the trash. And then the dishwasher is also from KitchenAid, and as you can imagine, we do a lot of dishes in this kitchen. And there are 3 things that I absolutely love about this dishwasher. So first, all of the controls are at the top, and when you close the dishwasher, they're actually hidden, so it creates, again, a really nice clean look on the exterior. And another thing that I love about this dishwasher is the 3rd rack. You feel like you just get that much more space out of your dishwasher. So the 3rd rack is my go-to place for spatulas, pastry bags, or serving pieces. You can just put a lot of stuff up there, and it's like you have all this extra room. And then lastly, my favorite thing about this dishwasher is how quiet it is. Like, you can't even tell when it is on, when it's running. In fact, this is the thing that my husband will constantly do. He'll come into the kitchen and open the dishwasher, not knowing that it's on because it's so quiet. Now, this house doesn't actually have a dining room. In fact, that was another big motivation for building the vegetable garden, is that's really our big dining room. It's where we hold Easter, Thanksgiving, but in the winter months when you cannot eat outside, we have to actually eat in the kitchen. So I wanted to create a dining room situation that wouldn't feel that we were actually dining in the kitchen. So I replaced the original stainless steel light fixture with a vintage chandelier that I found online, and that simple little swap instantly created the feeling of a dining room in our kitchen. I also made sure that the chandelier was on a dimmer so that when I was cooking, I could have enough light, but that when we sat down to dinner, I could lower the lights and it would just have a nice, better glow to it. The dining table is actually a table designed by my dad, who has a furniture collection, so I love the sleek design of it because it was really neutral, and I knew that it would go with a lot of different furniture that we may have over the years. But I wanted to pair this kind of modern table with something a bit more traditional. I love mixing and matching furniture styles like that. I think if you have a modern table, you don't necessarily have to have modern chairs. I think that it just creates a more acquired look. So I found these chairs actually at a flea market, and we just stripped them of their paint down to the natural wood, and then I replaced the seat covers with just a faux leather. So it would probably have been really expensive to use real leather, but the faux leather is great because people can spill on it and you just wipe it up with a sponge. And then to continue the feeling of a dining room, I hung some white plates on either side of the window. These were just plates that I actually found at a yard sale, but I loved their shapes and I felt that it just looked kind of nice, the white against the white. Hanging something that gives you interest but doesn't compete so much with the other things in the room. And then in between the plates are these funky little pictures that I actually had in my bedroom as a child. And these are actually pages from a vintage children's book. And they define what a noun is and what a pronoun is. And I think there's something fun about bringing in things from your past or from your childhood into your new house. It just creates a nice feeling of connectivity, I guess, to your past. And then in the original kitchen, there was this funky plant window that was really strange. I don't know, I tried to make it look cute over the years. I would put little baskets in it and different pieces of china that I collected, and it still was just like this big eyesore. So a few months ago, we just had it ripped out, patched up the wall, and in its place hung a picture that was done by a family friend of Paris. I love this picture because it reminds me of the first time my husband and I traveled to Paris to meet his family when we were first dating. We spent the whole day discovering the city, walking along the banks of the Seine, and every time I look at that, I think of our early history, that first time that we spent exploring the sights of Paris. And then the last thing in this kitchen that had to go was the little back door. So we lived with this back door for many years. It was kind of this weird hybrid between wood and maybe plastic. And it was just something that just bugged me that I just had to get rid of. And instead, I wanted a Dutch door because I think there's something so charming about a Dutch door that splits in two, where you can have the door fully open, you can have the top open and just the bottom open. It just creates another piece of charming architecture in this kitchen that makes it feel a little bit more cottagey and country-like. And it's actually very practical too. So ever since we got our puppy George, he has figured out a way to let himself out of the screen door. He just jumps up and out he goes. So if there are birds out there or the postman, he will just go charging after them. So now we can leave the top of the door open and George can't get out when the bottom is shut. All right, you guys, I hope you've enjoyed my kitchen renovation story. I hope it has given you some inspiration for your own kitchen. And a very special thanks to KitchenAid for sponsoring and collaborating with me on this video. And you can tune in next week to see how I make a delicious dinner salad. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the grill attachment in the KitchenAid SmartOven Plus. And for more information on the appliances you saw in my kitchen today, you can check the links in the description, or you can browse the full collection of appliances at KitchenAid.com. All right, you guys, I'll see you back here next time. Until then, bye.